Hey guys, how's it going? It's Danconia and welcome back to the Overwatch Transfer Roundup. We're going to get straight into this one because this is actually a really long one. It's pretty darn ridiculous. But we're going to start off in the EU where Samsung Morning Stars have let go of two players. This is the Dutch support player Sab and the French support player Starboy. They will both be unassigned and be looking for teams, and Samsung Morning Stars will look to replace them. Also in the EU, we are looking at Young and Beautiful, who have let go of three different players. This is the British tank player Jakaru 19, the Finnish tank player Vestola, and the Swedish support player Gustav. They've all been let go and will be looking for teams in Europe as well. We have a move at Triumph. This is the Finnish tank player Milky Man. You probably heard of him before. Milky Man is a very big name. He is being moved to an inactive role on Triumph and alone at Square 1, and we will see how he does there. Then we have a move back at Dreadlords in the EU. This is them letting go of their Danish DPS player Fal. He will no longer be assigned and will be looking for a team, but Dreadlords are going to bring in a massive load of new players. So, first of all, it will be the British support player Cloud. He is coming in from being unassigned. But they're also going to sign a bunch, pretty much the whole roster from Chaos Insurgency. This is the American manager Tengoku, the Dutch coach Nat Dokchi, I don't know whether I'm saying that right, the French support player Source, the Irish tank player Pure Irish, the Norwegian tank player Bacon Thief, the French tank player Task, the French DPS player Arca, and the German DPS player Fire, and they will all be going from Chaos Insurgency to Dreadlords ahead of this Contenders EU season. Then we have a bunch of coming in at Angry Titans in the EU. This is them signing up two people from Disaster, the French coach Buell and the Swedish tank player Kanason, and they will all be coming into Angry Titans. They're also signing a French DPS player Bombaiman from the Dreadlords, and they're also bringing in three players who are currently unassigned. This is Starboy, the French support player that we mentioned just now, their Danish support player Doggo, who's been currently applying his trade in North America, with Revival, and then was it Uprising Academy maybe? I can't remember exactly. And then they're signing up the Swedish DPS player Love, who will all be coming into Angry Titans ahead of this new season. Now we move over to NA though, where we see Karasuno bringing in their new lineup. This is the British support player Provide, the Swedish support player Gustav, the Icelandic tank player Finzi, the British tank player Jakaru 19. Again, we've just mentioned these just now from Young and Beautiful. The American DPS player Far, and a big welcome back to the Contenders scene for the French player and DPS player Asking, who has been away for a little while. Asking is a fantastic hit scan player. You've heard me bang on about him before. Why is he not an Overwatch League player? Asking is bloomin' good. I think he's had a few issues with teams in the past and stuff like that, but he was at Sky Foxes, and he's darn good, and that's a brilliant pickup for Karasuno. But Young and Beautiful are going to replace some players now, with three coming in from being unassigned, three Dutch players actually. Two supports, Trispear and Looked, and then the tank player Brussen, who you may recognise from the Boston Uprising not so long ago. They are also going to bring in two other players from other teams. This is the Dutch tank player Dans, who will be coming in from Ex Oblivione, and they will be signing the Finnish support player Dollar from Disaster, and that will round out most of the Young and Beautiful lineup ahead of Contenders Season 2 of this year. But we have some moves at Raw Esports in Contenders as well. They're letting go of the British tank player Neddy, who will be going to unassigned, and then they're bringing in a bunch of players from different rosters. So, they're bringing in two players from Shoesman Crew EU. This is the Czech support player Zaitor, and the German tank player Naru. They will also be bringing in the French tank player Timo from Dreadlords, and then also be bringing in the Pakistani coach IQB from Malibu, and he will be working as a two-way coach with Malibu and Raw Esports. Malibu compete in NA Contenders. So that's a lot of moves at Raw Esports, but we're also going to bring in another 4 people to Raw Esports as well. This is the British coach Hayes. Now that's actually a massive pickup for Raw Esports. Hayes had time with the Philly Fusion as a coach, and also has been a major part of the British World Cup team over the time. So Hayes is a really good coach and a really good pickup for Raw Esports. They've also brought in the Estonian support player Admiral Raptor, the British DPS player Ellie, and the Saudi Arabian DPS player Fuki. They will all be coming in from being unassigned to Raw Esports, and I think Raw Esports could be a little one to watch out for in Contenders coming up for Season 2 of this year. But now we have a completely new team to announce for European Contenders, which is going to be super duper interesting. This team is called the Ultimates, and they're not actually European, but they will be competing in the European region because they are actually from Saudi Arabia, which is going to be super duper interesting. This is the first team I can think of that is from Saudi Arabia. So, bringing in 2 people from Disaster, this is the French coach Le Renegade and the Danish tank player Henningsen, who is a very well-known name in Contenders. But they're also going to bring in a load of unassigned people. So, this is the Norwegian manager Nate, the Saudi Arabian manager Faisal, the Saudi Arabian support player Sir Majid, the British support player Chucky Milk, the Saudi Arabian tank player Antigon, the Saudi Arabian DPS player Kazar Plays, and the Swedish DPS player Monk Mata, who you may have heard of from, of course, that lovely name Clockwork Vendetta back in the day. I can't believe I'm saying back in the day when it refers to Clockwork Vendetta. But this is an incredibly interesting squad, and I'm really interested to see how they do in European Contenders. Well, I can't think of another Saudi Arabian squad, so this is going to be really, really interesting to see how this pans out in European Contenders for Season 2. But sticking with European Contenders, we see a new analyst coming in to Angry Titans. This is the French analyst Sweeps FR, and I wish him all the best coming into Angry Titans. But now, let's talk about North America. I think it's about time, isn't it? And we got some moves coming into the Maryville Esports, or I was about to say Maryville Saints, and not the Maryville Saints anymore. But this is 4 American players. 2 support players, Panic and Mac, the tank player Guru, and the DPS player Aether, who will be coming in. They were 2-way with Maryville Esports and the Saints, and now they're going to be sticking with Maryville Esports. There are also going to be 2 people being let go at the Saints. This is the 2 Canadian players, tank player Chain and the DPS player Akida, who will be being let go by the Saints, and they will be unassigned. But now the Saints are going to pick up a new roster. This is going to be the American manager Sifs, the Korean support player HTP, and then the rest of them are going to be American. So this is the support player Madero, the tank players Yeetle, Geo, and Shiz, and then the DPS player Editzi. Some of these names are so difficult to say, but that's going to be the new lineup for the Saints ahead of the NA Contenders season. Also, we are going to see Square One bring in a new DPS player. This is the Swedish DPS player Spee, and he was currently unassigned, so good luck to him with Square One in NA Contenders. But we switch back to the EU now, where we see that the Samsung Morning Stars are letting go of the Danish DPS player Biju, who will be currently unassigned. Then we see 2 more players coming in to Sheer Cold. This is the Dutch support player Lusa and the German support player Revid, who were both unassigned ahead of coming in to Sheer Cold. I wish them all the best. And then Shoes Midicrew EU are going to pick up the Dutch support player Sab, who was again unassigned before coming into this. A lot of unassigned people being picked up ahead of this new Contender season. It's going to be super duper interesting. But we are not by any means finished yet. We head back over to NA, where we see Noble are letting go of the tank player, or the Austrian tank player Mac. He'll be unassigned after that, but they are going to bring in 3 new players. This is the German tank player Moose, the Canadian tank player Chain, who we've just mentioned, and the Argentinian DPS player Valon, who I believe actually was with a team in South America, a big team in South America, not so long ago, but I can't remember their name. So yeah. That's what's happening there. But Sky Foxes are going to make some moves now. Sky Foxes, they dipped out of Contenders, and they seem to now be coming back into the Contender scene, which is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. They took a hiatus, but it's nice to see Sky Foxes back. They're a team that likes to build themselves on the model of the Overwatch League, and I really like that. But they are going to sign up the analyst Miata, the American analyst, the Canadian coach Mayo, and the American manager Hunts. They are then going to bring in the American coach Seven as a 2-way coach between them and HSL Esports, HSL Esports in Europe, obviously. And then their roster is going to be imported from Last Hope. So this will be the Canadian support player Autumn Souls, the American support player Fallen, the tank players 2 American, Matman 909 and Frosted, and the Canadian tank player Faded. Then the Swedish DPS player Atlas and the Armenian DPS player Sargasm. So they are all coming into Sky Foxes. Sky Foxes have a new roster going into this new season, and we will see if they can improve, because they got disturbed a lot during the first season of Contenders this year, and I hope it can be more stable for them going ahead this time. But now we have some movements elsewhere, which is nice to see. We've been talking about NA and EU a lot because their contender seasons are about to kick off. But we're at Oza Gaming now, who have picked up the Korean tank player Another, who was unassigned after leaving the Korean team Element Mystic, obviously, back in June. And this will be a great pickup for Oza Gaming. Element Mystic having a few changes, but there's still some great players there, and it's great to see that Another has picked up a team. Now we have a move to talk about, or some moves to talk about in Australia. Oh yes, we're going to Australia now. This is Paradigm Shift, where we see they have let go of a few people. This is the Australian coach Diddles, the French coach Kanaki, the South Korean coach Vivid, the Australian support Don, and the Australian tank player Mini. They're all being let go from Paradigm Shift, and I expect they're going to rebuild that ahead of the new Australian Contenders season. But also some moves again at Samsung Morning Stars. There have been a lot of moves at Samsung Morning Stars during this video, and I'm assuming they are going to completely rebuild, which is going to be super duper interesting because we're going to talk about that rebuild now. And this is them letting go of the Norwegian coach Glatz01, the Filipino coach, the Filipino manager I should say, Hoon, the Swedish support player Denaya, and the Finnish tank player Nipperhog. Oh, there's so much to talk about in this video that I'm struggling to talk. Anyway, they're going to then bring in an entire new roster at Samsung Morning Stars. This is the Norwegian manager Lama, the American manager Krishna, the Finnish support player Qbest, the Italian support player Adnar, the Danish tank player Weq, the German tank player Cookie, the Danish DPS player Shikari, and the Romanian DPS player Kuku Bayu. They're all coming into Samsung Morning Stars, and that will be the roster for the new Contenders EU season for Samsung Morning Stars, and it will be super duper interesting to see what they do. Also being let go from Samsung Morning Stars, they will be transferring to Shoes Crew EU, is the Indian coach Blue. They will now be a coach for Shoes Crew EU, and we'll see how they do there. We are finally on the home stretch of this now. We have one thing to talk about in the Overwatch League, but it's not really the Overwatch League, but it is involving an Overwatch League team. This is J3, the American DPS player, tank player. J3's never been a tank player. He's obviously a streamer. He's going to become a content creator / streamer for the Florida Mayhem. Nice to see that sort of thing happen again. We remember that Emong used to be with the Philadelphia Fusion as a content creator, so did Kabaji. They all got let go, and a lot of people were being let go from being their content creator roles with teams, but now some people are coming back in. We've seen it with Samito, and now we're seeing it with J3 as well, and it's actually at the Florida Mayhem, so it's really, really nice. But let's talk more about pickups here. This is in South America, which is an interesting one. We haven't talked about South America much this video. This is Trix, the Brazilian tank player, going from Logic Geek all the way to And They Say one of the best teams in South America right now. They got edged out, I believe, in the finals of Contenders Season 1, but I'm sure they're going to come back fighting to try and get that title in their hands. But now we have some more moves at Shoes Crew EU. This is them signing up the British DPS player Fees, the Danish DPS player Biju, and bringing in that Filipino manager Hoon, who had just been let go from Samsung Morning Stars. Again, Shoes Crew EU rebuilding ahead of this new Contenders season. And then last but not least, another one out of Paradigm Shift. This is the Korean coach Ho Chi Lee, who will be no longer assigned. Whoo! That's a video. That's a lot of moves. You can tell we're about to head into a Contenders season. Boy, oh boy, that was a lot of information to take in, so I do apologize for that one. But we got through it. There's no Overwatch League this weekend. It's kind of boring, isn't it? But I'm going to leave it here for this one. So, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, give it a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next video. See you then.